There is a certain type of man that nobody talks about. He doesn't chase. He doesn't beg. He doesn't explain himself. And somehow, without trying, people respect him, trust him, and want to be around him. You've seen this man. Maybe you hate him a little, because you can't figure out what he has that you don't. It's not his looks. It's not his money. Marcus Aurelius identified exactly what this man carries inside him, and it has nothing to do with what most people think. 2,000 years ago, ruling the most powerful empire on earth, Marcus discovered one psychological truth, so cold and so precise, that most people will spend their entire life never understanding it. And the ones who do understand it, they stop chasing forever. By the end of this video, you will see exactly what Marcus saw, and why you've been doing the opposite your whole life without realizing it. Drop a comment, "I need nothing," if you think you're ready for this. But if you're waiting for someone's permission to watch, that's already the answer. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. Why do you check your phone 30 seconds after posting something? Why does one person's cold response ruin your entire mood? Why do you rehearse conversations in your head, trying to figure out exactly what to say so they won't judge you? You already know the answer. You just don't want to say it out loud. You need people's approval to feel okay about yourself. Not because you are weak, not because you are broken, because from the very first day of your life, every single system around you was designed to make you feel incomplete, without external validation. Your brain literally learned that approval equals survival. A crying baby gets attention. A performing child gets praise. An agreeable adult gets accepted. So your nervous system built a simple rule. Need validation, get safety. That rule made sense when you were 3 years old. But you are not 3 anymore. And that same rule is now quietly destroying everything you are trying to build. The question is, who built that rule inside you? And that rule did not grow inside you naturally. Not you. You were handed it before you were old enough to question it. Think about school for a second. Every single day you sat in a room where one person decided if you were smart or stupid, good or bad, worth praising or worth ignoring. You learned one thing faster than any subject they taught you: perform for approval or suffer the consequences. Then came social media. They gave you a number, right there on your screen. A public score of how many people approved of you today. And your brain, that same brain wired for survival, started treating that number like oxygen. Watch what happens when someone unfollows you. That slight drop in your chest. That's not vanity. That's your nervous system reacting like a threat just entered the room. But here is what nobody tells you. This was not an accident. Needy people are the most profitable people on earth. They buy things to impress others. They stay in jobs they hate for validation. They shrink themselves to keep people around who were never worth keeping. A needy person is easy to sell to, easy to control, easy to manipulate. The system didn't fail you. It worked exactly as designed. But here is the part that will actually keep you up tonight. The cost of your neediness is not what you think it is. The cost of your neediness is not what you think it is. You think the cost is embarrassment. Maybe some awkward moments. A few rejections here and there. No. The real cost is invisible. And it has been bleeding you out for years. Think about the last time you stayed silent when you should have spoken. Not because you had nothing to say, but because you were terrified of what they would think. That silence cost you something. You just never calculated the price. Think about the last relationship you held on to way too long. Not because it was good for you, but because losing them felt like losing a piece of yourself. Ask yourself honestly, who had the power in that situation? And here is where it gets darker. Needy people don't just lose relationships. They repel the exact things they are desperately chasing. Respect runs from those who beg for it. Attraction dies the moment desperation enters the room. Opportunity disappears the second someone senses you need it too much. You have been unknowingly pushing away everything you want, with the same hands you've been reaching out with. But the part nobody talks about, the people around you, they can feel your neediness. They just never tell you. They smile. They stay comfortable. And quietly, they stop taking you seriously. So what did Marcus Aurelius discover about all of this? Something so precise, it will make you question every relationship you have ever had. So what did Marcus Aurelius discover? This man sat at the absolute top of human power. Emperor of Rome, commander of the greatest military force ever assembled. Every resource, every luxury, every form of validation a human being could possibly want, it was all his. And he wanted none of it. Not as performance. Not as Stoic theater. He genuinely did not need it. While his senators competed for his approval, while generals begged for his recognition, while the entire empire watched his every move, Marcus was writing something in his private journal that most people will never understand. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Simple words, but think about what he was actually saying. He was not talking about meditation or morning routines. He was saying, the moment you need something from the outside world to feel complete, you have already handed that thing your power, permanently. And here is where it gets uncomfortable. Marcus watched needy men his entire life. Senators who craved his praise, generals who needed public glory, friends who required constant validation to function. Every single one of them, without exception, was eventually controlled, manipulated, or destroyed by the very thing they needed. He saw the pattern so clearly, it became cold logic to him. A man who needs approval will always be owned by whoever gives it. A man who needs loyalty will always be destroyed. A man who needs to be loved will always be controlled by whoever threatens to leave. But the man who needs nothing, nobody has ever figured out how to break him. And that is exactly what Marcus built inside himself. Not through philosophy alone, but through 7 precise psychological laws that rewired how he related to people, power, and himself. These are not motivational rules. These are the exact weapons he used, and you are about to see all 7 of them. There is 7 laws, not suggestions, not motivational advice. Psychological weapons Marcus used on himself every single day, until needing nothing became his natural state. Law 1. Kill the approval addiction. Every time you adjust your behavior based on what someone might think, you are not living your life. You are performing it. Marcus wrote to himself daily, "It never ceases to amaze me how easily we love ourselves more than others, yet care more about their opinion than our own. Stop performing, start existing, but killing approval addiction is only the first cut." Law 2. Detach from every outcome. You are not afraid of failing. You are afraid of what failing makes you look like. Marcus separated his identity from every result. Win, lose, praise, humiliation. None of it touched who he was. The moment you stop needing a specific outcome, nobody can use that outcome against you. And here is where most people get it completely wrong. Law 3. Fill yourself first. Needy people are empty people. They chase others because something inside them is missing. Marcus understood, you cannot stop needing people until you stop being hollow inside. But how exactly do you fill that emptiness? That answer is colder than you expect. Law 4. Walk away from anything. The most powerful position in any situation is being genuinely willing to leave it, not as a tactic, not as manipulation, as a real internal truth. The second you need something to stay, that thing owns you. Law 5. Strategic independence. Marcus never announced his detachment. He never performed it. He simply stopped requiring things quietly, and people felt it without understanding why. Law 6. Become the prize. Stop auditioning for people who should be auditioning for you. Law 7. Need nothing. Prepare for everything. The final law is the one that separates Marcus from every philosopher who came before him. And it is the one nobody talks about. When you apply these 7 laws, something shifts. Not overnight, not dramatically, quietly. The people who used to drain you start feeling your distance without understanding why. The ones who played games with your emotions suddenly find those games don't work anymore. The manipulators in your life, they sense it first. Because you have become something they cannot calculate. And then something strange happens. The respect you were chasing starts finding you. The opportunities you were desperately reaching for start appearing when you stop reaching. The relationships you wanted start coming from a completely different direction. From people who sense your completeness, not your hunger. This is not magic. This is pure psychology. Marcus Aurelius never chased the empire. He became someone the empire needed. That is the difference between a needy man and an untouchable one. But before you close this video thinking you have figured it out, there is one final thing Marcus warned about. One mistake that destroys everything you just built. And most people make it the moment they start feeling powerful. Before you leave, Marcus left one brutal warning. And most people who study Stoicism completely miss it. There is a difference between needing nothing and pretending to need nothing. One makes you untouchable. The other makes you a fraud. Here is how you know which one you are. The man who genuinely needs nothing never announces it. He never performs detachment for an audience. He never dramatically walks away to prove a point. His independence is so quiet, so internal, that most people around him can't even name what it is they feel when they're near him. But the man who performs needlessness, watch him carefully. The moment someone stops giving him attention, he finds a way to demand it back. The moment someone threatens to leave, the performance cracks. The moment his "I don't care" gets ignored, suddenly he cares very loudly. That crack is where every manipulator enters. Marcus called this the most dangerous self-deception a man can carry, believing you have conquered something you have only learned to hide. So ask yourself one honest question right now. Are you actually becoming someone who needs nothing? Or are you just getting better at pretending? That answer lives in your actions when nobody is watching. Not in your mindset, not in your philosophy. In what you actually do when the room is empty and nobody is keeping score. That is where real detachment is built. Or destroyed. Drop a comment. I need nothing. Only if you actually mean it, or keep waiting for someone to notice how unbothered you are. That works too.